Hello, welcome to the Northeast Ohio Media Group Candidate Debates. I'm Bob Sandrick. Today we're hosting a debate for Cleveland Heights City Council candidates. The election is November 3rd. The candidates will introduce themselves in a minute. First, here are the rules. Each candidate will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and explain why they're running. Then we'll ask questions, giving each candidate 90 seconds to answer, and if they choose, a minute for follow-up. At the end, we'll allow 10 minutes for the candidates to ask each other questions, with 60 seconds permitted for the answers. So let's get started. The candidates vying for 3 council seats in Cleveland Heights are Mary Dunbar, Julie Love, T. Nadas, Cal Rowe, Kahlil Seren, and Keba Sylla. And Mary, you can go first, introduce yourself, and tell us why you're running.
I'm Mary Dunbar, and I am currently finishing a 4-year term on City Council. It's my first term, and I'm running for a second term because I feel I've learned a great deal during the first term and have a lot to offer at this point. I've served on every committee of council and chaired 4 of the committees, which gives me a good overview of all of our operations, from police to fire to housing and municipal services, which includes roads and garbage. In addition, I've worked very hard to understand our city in the context of local and national, regional trends and what's going on. So I've been to many meetings about Cuyahoga County and studied a lot about social policies and other policies that are affecting our community. So I feel I'm well positioned to make a difference in the second term.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Julie.
Hi, my name is Julie Love, and I have a bachelor's degree in finance and accounting from the University of Cincinnati. I practiced and worked in the finance and accounting field for about 10 years. I also have a master's degree in journalism, and I have been operating a small business from my home for the past 8 years. I am running for city council because I am very concerned about the direction of our city. We have some of the highest taxes in the state, and we are proposing an income tax increase on the ballot in November, which I think will be devastating to our city. People cannot afford it, and more people will move away if it passes. I feel very strongly that we need a different direction for our city, one which makes it a good idea for people to move into Cleveland Heights, to want to live there and want to open businesses there. And I think that's the best way to grow our city, and that's why I'm running for city council.
Okay, Julie, thanks. T?
Sure. My name is T. Nadas. I lived in Cleveland Heights for 11 years. I've got my undergraduate at Case Western, after which I went on to get an MBA. I work at the Cleveland Clinic. I've worked there my entire professional life. I'm a project manager. Most of what I do is focus on process improvement and driving efficiencies. The reason that I'm running for City Council is because I feel a lot of my business experience currently can be very helpful to the council and to the city. Working at an organization that has as many employees as residents in the city, I know that there's a lot of opportunity for my experiences to be transferable. Additionally, the things that I would want to focus on within the city primarily would be around urban renewal, identifying waste and opportunities for efficiency within the city, and driving economic development to bring in more businesses, more residents, primarily through bringing in a municipal broadband utility.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Carol.
Hi, my name's Carol Rowe, and I'm running because my commitments to the city of Cleveland Heights and to the values of the city are 2 of the compelling reasons why I chose to run at this time. As a nurse, I understand the importance of listening to people, listening not only for what's being said, but not what is not said. My preparation as a lawyer has instilled in me the importance of listening to all the facts. As a former lobbyist, I have experience with state government and understand the impact of the state budget on city finances. I understand legislative process, and I understand the importance of crafting enforceable rules as a regulator formerly. I believe passionately in the power of the citizens to enact significant social change, and that's why I'm running to provide those skills that I have to the deliberations of council.
Thanks, Carol. Kahlil?
Thank you. My name is Kahlil Seren. I'm currently serving as a city councilman in Cleveland Heights. I was educated at the Levin School of Urban Affairs in urban studies, so public policy and urban economic development. I'm currently working as a policy analyst for Cuyahoga County Council, the new municipal county government. And I've also been trained in Lean Six Sigma for the public sector by the state of Ohio. I am running for city council. I'm running to retain my seat because I believe that the skills that I've developed through education and through my work can be valuable in the city of Cleveland Heights. I work primarily in economic development, community development, workforce development, and education policy. And I believe that those things are desperately needed in Cleveland Heights, and I'm looking forward to lending my skills to the benefit of the city.
Thanks, Kahlil. And Keba?
Thank you, Bob. My name is Keba Sylla. I'm running because I live in Cleveland Heights I have been living here for the last 18 years. Also, I am a member of the CAC, Citizen Advisory Committee, for 10 years, almost maybe plus, but 10 years for sure. And last 2 years, 2014 and 2015, I was the chair. So I know the rule and regulation, how the city function. I have experience on this, and I met Kahlil and Mary Dunbar, so they know me, my work, and I presented my report to the city council. I have PhD in public administration from the University of Akron. Also, I have master's degree in criminal justice from Kent State University. Currently, I'm professor at Baldwin-Wallace University in Borea. I would like to bring my experience in the city council, but also the professionalism I have. Thank you very much. I will develop later the issues I'm running on.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for noticing me to have all of us here.
Thank you. Well, thanks for all your responses, and we're going to go ahead with the first question here. So on Monday, City Council leaned toward turning over the Cleveland Heights water system to the Cleveland Division of Water. Projections show that it would mean lower rates for residents. An alternative plan involving keeping the water system with help from a private firm would supposedly raise millions of dollars in future years for water system upgrades and repairs. What should the city do with its water system? And I'll start by asking Julie.
So I was out walking the dog, and someone pulled up next to me and handed me these spreadsheets about the water. It's hard to read spreadsheets when you're walking. But so I read both, and I fully support the transition to the Cleveland water because first off, we right away see a decrease in our rates. And since moving to Cleveland Heights 12 years ago, my water bill has gone from $20 a month to over $100 a month. So for it to go down is a very good thing. We need the rates to go down. And then in the future, it goes down even further. My only question about it is we have to pay a transitional fee of $200 a year per person, which I think is a little high. The problem that I have with the other proposal is we're giving millions and millions and millions of dollars to this company, and the rates just go up and up and up. Every year, the rates just go up. They just go up continually. They never end. And at the bottom, we have money, but we give millions of dollars to this other company too. So I am definitely for Cleveland taking over the water.
Okay. T?
Sure. So I think that there is value in both of the options. For the ESG option, really the three things that would have been valuable for us would be us maintaining control of the utility, which really gives us an opportunity to, when doing improvements within the utility, not just looking at replacing pipes, but looking holistically for the city. What else does the city need? What else can we do while we have the streets ripped up? And additionally, going with the ESG route, holding onto the utility, we would still have the opportunity to, down the line, maintain that revenue stream into the city. So that was the value there. However, going with Cleveland Water, I think, is just as fine of an option. Right now we'll be able to spread the burden, so it's not just us holding on to our utility, but it's going across all the dozens of other municipalities that Cleveland Water manages. They will focus on sustainability more than anything else because they don't want to lose money. So I will appreciate that. And honestly, at the end of the day, ultimately, I'm just glad that City Council made a decision. This is a issue, a crisis that existed that shouldn't have had to exist. That's been building up for 30 years. But now a decision has been made, and I'm glad that I look forward to it being corrected and us having a sustainable utility into the future.
Okay, thanks. Carol?
I support the decision of the council. I think that it's really crucial to our citizens to have consistency of service and keeping the rates affordable, and the proposal that council adopted seems to do that. I have concerns about private firms in terms of accountability to the citizens, so I support the proposal.
Okay, Kahlil?
Well, when I joined the ongoing conversation about our water system in February, I had some concerns about the city of Cleveland because we hadn't received a proposal from them, and it had been quite a while. To the point where I thought maybe we should abandon that path and go with the people who were working with us. Cleveland ultimately did provide a proposal with preliminary numbers, and based on that proposal, I wasn't impressed. Through conversation with my colleagues and with the city manager, we impressed upon Cleveland to do a revision, and based upon the revised numbers, I was a lot more impressed with what they brought to the table. So at this point, I feel pretty confident about the City of Cleveland Water Department, and I'm interested in seeing where we go from here. I will say that I still have some concerns about environmental issues and the potential for Cleveland Heights not being the priority when it comes to repairs and infrastructure improvements. But I think based on what they've provided us, and based on frankly, I feel that Cleveland Heights has other things to focus its attention on in terms of growth and investment than maintaining a water system if we don't have to. So I'm looking forward to the Cleveland water solution.
Okay. Keba?
Thank you, Bob. I have a concern for water issue, but the leadership works now because we need leadership to take care of this for the last 30, 25 years. But now they decide to. But my concern, number one, is with Cleveland water. I want to that, but I want we maintain our workers because if old ladies in our neighborhood have some break in neighborhood and they call Cleveland, it takes 6, 7 weeks or 1 month they didn't come. I'm concerned about that if they talked about detail on these issues because that's another problem. We know Cleveland has that problem. But so far, so good, they decided to take care of that. I'm against the privatization of public water. No way for that. But thanks for City Council coming along. But some detail has to be public because I'm not in the City Council. I don't know what is the working down there. Maybe it's good now, but what's going to happen when there is breakdown? We call them, they say we can come until 6 weeks. What do we do with that? How we will handle that? I think we keep our workers working on that so they can transfer water, but anything else should be maintained by the City of Cleveland.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Mary?
Yes. The negotiations with Cleveland are not quite finished yet. We still have some details to work out with them. It took a very long time to really review our options, and my greatest concern initially was that I would like to fix the system. I feel a sense of stewardship to our community. We have a wonderful community, historic homes. It's just a great place in so many ways, and I would have liked to find a way to solve the problems. My concerns about Cleveland are that they do not have a good record of maintaining the system. They go out and make repairs. In any case, we're going to be getting Cleveland water no matter which course we do, and they provide good water. But they have compelling cost advantages that nobody can match because they just bring the water out of the lake and treat it and send it out, and anything else we do would be a cost on top of that. So in terms of cost, it's our best option. We'll be joining with Shaker Heights and Beechwood and a lot of other communities, 50-something suburban communities in switching to Cleveland Water. There are very few master meter communities. And My concerns about Cleveland is that their leak rate is 38%, which is not the EPA standard, which is more like 16%. And I'm hoping we can somehow pressure them to work on that because it is an issue.
Okay, thank you. Yes?
I would like to, the people who's in the council, do you really talk about the reparation of the stuff we still have, the reading meters to change all this? We will pay that, or the Cleveland will take over all these issues?
Well, I'm not sure I understand.
For example, we need to have to remodelize, to modernize our water system in the housing system. Yeah. So do you talk to them about that? Because that could include on the price too.
That's part of the ongoing negotiation. Cleveland is in the process of doing some upgrades, particularly in how they read meters and getting an automated system. There's a lot of new equipment that communities can use, and I hope that they will be including a more proactive approach to leaks as part of it, and that we can, as a suburban communities, manage to encourage Cleveland Water to improve their operation.
Very good.
Would anybody else like to follow up on that question before we move on? No? Okay. So we're going to move on to the next question. The city has placed a 0.25% income tax increase on the ballot in November. If it doesn't pass, the city could have to make deep cuts in police, fire, and service. Do you support the tax increase, and why? And if not, what would you do to balance the city's budget? And we'll start with T.
Okay. So with the tax increase on the ballot, I will say that I do not support it. It's something that I've felt vehemently about for a while, specifically because it was hard for me to listen to the city council tell us that we're losing millions of dollars a year with the water system on one hand, and come to the citizens saying we need more money from you on the other. So that was just a very simple thing that I saw. In terms of my professional experience, process improvement is a lot of what I do. Kahlil said that he's trained in Six Sigma and Lean, and so am I, and that's something that I apply in my daily life. And what I would do, so we're talking about what happens if it doesn't pass. What I would do, honestly, is I would make a commitment to shadowing as many of the city services as possible within my first months on the job, if I was elected, and really understand how everyone could work smarter, not harder. Efficiency isn't necessarily about how do we cut staff, but rather how do we increase productivity. I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and ways that we can save money by being more productive as opposed to by just cutting staff. Unfortunately, working in an organization as I do, I know that full-time employees are the biggest cost, and sometimes cuts will need to be made, but that's something that will have to be addressed down the line. Other options to definitely look into is, how can we look at regionalization? How can we partner with other municipalities around us to try to share some overhead costs?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Carol?
I do support the tax increase. In my experience of following this issue for over the last year, I have looked into and understand that there has been a decline in revenues in terms of the city. And we can't maintain essential safety forces and other essential services, is my concern, if we don't have a tax increase. While no one really loves tax increases, I think it's important to maintain the values of our city, particularly with safety forces. So I would also look for efficiencies in the future, and my experience in nursing administration and other organizations says that you can't make significant savings anywhere unless you cut staff. So the idea that we would have to cut even more staff than our safety forces is concerning to me.
Okay, thank you. Kahlil?
Well, I voted to place this income tax increase on the ballot for residents of Cleveland Heights to decide this November because I was concerned about what the alternative might be. I know that there are efficiencies to be found. There always are. The question is, it's an issue of timing. And finding, vetting, and implementing millions of dollars of efficiencies it's a daunting task to do to avoid a budget deficit in the next year. That's why I was interested, and I floated the possibility of placing a sunset on this income tax increase. I did not receive the support that I had hoped on council, but I floated that idea because I know that having a time limit on that revenue would provide a motivation. I don't believe that the drastic cuts that we would need to make will strengthen the city. You don't starve your way to prosperity, but I am interested in finding a way to achieve those efficiencies, ensure that we don't create a budget deficit next year or dramatically impact our services. So I'm in favor, and I will be voting for the tax increase this November. And then I hope to get to work finding those efficiencies so that we don't have to rely on that additional revenue in the future.
Okay, thanks. Kahlil? I'm sorry, Keba, sorry about that.
Thanks, Bob. That's fine. Yes, all this is about finding revenues. I think the issue in Cleveland Heights, before we talk tax, is they did not improve or they didn't put economic development forefront. If we have a good economic development in the city, all across the city, I think we will have more revenue and we will talk less about increasing tax on the citizens. But we didn't have anything. So the situation now is, do we will face shortfall or we have to go? So I think 0.25 is not a big deal, but it's big deal for a lot of people who always, I understand them, they pay a lot of taxes in here. If you tell them to pay again, they will be, excuse me, my language, they will not be happy about this. But the situation is, I support the tax, but to me, it has to be limited now. Not next year again, tell people come back and we pay tax again. I think my issue is we need to focus on economic development in the city. Without that, we will always come back and increase taxes because this city is not industrial city, it's residential. And so we need to change the zoning code to bring businesses that can strengthen our economy and broaden our tax base so we live a low on the population for a while. But right now, I'm going to support the small increase of tax.
Okay, thanks for your response. Mary?
Yes. So I am in favor of the 0.25% income tax increase. I think this is rather complicated, but people don't understand that the cuts we're talking about that have impacted the police and fire are to the general fund, and that the 0.25% income tax would go to solve that shortfall. The water is a separate issue. There's a separate fund for it, and it is meant to be a moneymaker. However, it hasn't been. So what we're working on in water will balance the water fund, but the trouble with the general fund is that the state of Ohio, in making cuts, no longer sends us local government funds, and so we are falling $2 million short a year because of not receiving those funds. Also, they eliminated the estate tax, and that averaged about $500,000 a year for the city to the general fund. So we don't have those anymore. Basically, there's a three-pronged approach that your city takes to dealing with the funds we have. One is that we try to find efficiencies. The other is that we look for collaboration. And the third is economic development. Those are three prongs. In terms of efficiencies, we have conducted a strategic operations review, which we're working on, collaborations. We've gone to RETA and other things. I guess I'm running out of town, so I can't explain everything.
Well, you might be able, we can follow up.
Okay.
You'll get a chance. So, Julie?
I am against the tax increase. The median income of Cleveland Heights residents is $50,000. The 0.25% income tax increase would be 30% of the disposable income of a family. So this seems small to some people, but to most people it's not. It's actually devastating. And I've talked to a lot of people who say that they will leave if the tax is passed. I like the sunset clause, though. A lot of people said they would be for that, by the way. But so our population is decreasing dramatically. From 2013 to 2010, we've lost 1,000 residents. So for a city that it was 50,000 when I moved to Cleveland Heights, now we're down to 45. So that is causing a huge impact in our loss of revenue. So like in 2013, we lost, this is the last audited financial statements, we lost $3 million in 2013. So this isn't the first year that we're losing money. We've been doing that for years. So it's not really just the state cuts that are affecting us. There are other things too. Like, for example, between 2011 and 2012, salaries went up $2.8 million. That's right about the same time that everybody was kind of experiencing a decline in their wages. So that was really a hard time, to have salaries go up so much. That's 5% of the budget. So I am absolutely opposed to the income tax increase.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Keba?
I have follow-up for the people who's in the council.
I'd say what, the follow-up questions will be at the end.
Sorry.
We'll give you a chance to ask questions in the end,
okay.
but for now, does anyone have any more to add about this issue?
No, I just want to add that
Okay.
It's very devastating to a lot of people, this increase in tax. But I come again, this is the way a lot of people are pissed off, sorry my language, because we do not have developed any economic development. That for the last 20 years, we're thinking the city is residential, yes, but we need to improve it because we're in the 21st century. We have to use technology and things in order to increase companies that come here to pay taxes. But right now, the situation is, I'm worried after this election, it will be the same thing again. We do not develop, and we go again, and we in 2-3 years, and we say again, increase the tax again. That's my concern. So I hope this will be the last things we will focus on, and we focus on economic development.
Okay, I want to go with Mary first.
Yeah, the voters get to decide on this, and actually there hasn't been a tax increase to the income tax since the 1970s. So it's not like it's something that's going to happen all the time. We've just done a lot of things to try to work forward. We are working on a master plan now for the community. It's just started, and that will help steer economic development. We definitely have to hire an economic development director. Apparently it's very hard to find them. The county took 10 months, and I think they have one now, but I'm not sure. So that would help a lot, as if we had that. We have gotten grants from the state to do lean training for some of our employees. So all of the prongs of the approach to government, that efficiencies and collaboration and so on, they're all being worked on, and we'll be making progress further. So.
Okay, Julie?
But so I know the water and the general fund are separate, but in 2009, when we lost $800,000 in the water department, we transferred $500,000 from the general fund to the water fund. So we've been doing that kind of stuff for years. Just, so we do make transfers like that.
Yeah.
But also, we are issuing long-term bonds for short-term things. And so when we're issuing long-term bonds, we should be doing it to plug holes in the water pipes, not for things like computers and cars. But also, it's not just this tax increase, it's the tax burden that we have in Cleveland Heights. Just in the past few years, income taxes have gone up $600 per $1,000 of home value. And I think it's just all adding to the burden that's making it difficult to live in Cleveland Heights. And unfortunately, I'm afraid it's keeping people and businesses out of Cleveland Heights. So,
Carol?
It was my understanding from the presentation on Monday that overall the savings that each of our households will receive from the water is almost making up the amount that the income tax increase is going to be.
In time, yes.
In time, okay.
It might not be the first year, but that will happen.
You have studies on that? You sure?
hold on right here. Okay, do I tell you?
Yes.
Go ahead, Julie.
Can I? Okay, so the first year, it'll be $28.67 per quarter savings.
Okay.
And then after the transition, if they let us, I hope, because the transition is until 2023, it would be $82.79 per quarter savings per household, which would be, that would be great. I mean, that would be great. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, and you guys maybe can tell me later if my concern is the transition fee. Maybe they renegotiated that. I don't know, but the transition fee is $200 a year per household, which seems like a lot. But anyway.
Well, we are in debt to Cleveland Water.
Okay, so it pays off the debt.
Yeah.
It pays off the debt and gets us out of that.
Okay.
Kahlil, would you like to add anything to this?
I just think the panel is
Going
doing
rogue
great.
over here. Sorry.
What about T?
I'd love to add something, yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, so
You'll get the last word.
Actually, so Kahlil, this is the first time that I heard about adding the sunset onto the ballot. Honestly, had that been added, I think that would have been great, because I'm a huge proponent of, if we have to tighten our belts today to have a sustainable long-term future, then I think that would have been great. Unfortunately, that didn't hit the ballot, but I wanted to at least commend you for that. And then I wanted to reiterate what Julie said in terms of, we can't sustain a city if people are leaving. The opportunity cost to leave Cleveland Heights to go to Shaker, to go to Lakewood, to go somewhere else, it's a couple miles down the street. It's not that much. And so people, will be driven out, and then there will be fewer people paying taxes and less money for the city overall. So I think that a tax increase will only be a disincentivizer for people to both move in, and also an incentivizer for people to look at their other options.
Okay, well, now we got to move on. We're going to go to the next question. Now, this question is from one of our readers. Do you believe the city has responded adequately to the foreclosure crisis and the vacant home problem? Why or why not? And what more can the city do? And we'll start with Carol.
Well, I think the city has done an admirable job with the resources that they have in order to respond. I think that there could be some more collaboration with the county land bank, and I think that we need to include those people that are closest to those neighborhoods in helping us develop the solutions for what else we could do. I think that the foreclosure crisis has impacted not just our city, and I think that's what we need to keep in mind too, that it is a bigger issue than the issue of Cleveland Heights.
Okay. Kahlil?
Well, I think that the city has been reactive, and I think now is the time for us to enter into a more proactive role in responding to the foreclosure crisis and all of the effects of it. There are things that we could be doing quite a bit better. We need to make more robust use of Case Western Reserve's NEOMG NST web app to track information about properties and to actually start inputting information about properties. I think we need to be proactive in setting up, through community organizing and working with our neighborhoods, and setting up a community development structure in the city that we can work with and rely on to help with our code enforcement procedures. I think we need to modernize our department, our housing department. So I think that there are things that we could be doing a bit better. I know that there are a wide variety of ideas, whether it's foreclosure bond legislation or legislation to restrict a rental from receiving a rental occupancy permit if they're behind on taxes or perhaps have a certain class of violations. There are things that we could be doing better, and I'm hoping that I can help out with that. I work in my day job. I am a participant in the Vacant and Abandoned Properties Action Council, and in that role, I receive a wide variety of new ideas that I'd love to bring to Cleveland Heights.
Okay, thank you. Keba?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I believe the city was slow in its response to that. They could do better, but the situation is devastated in Northeast Ohio, in all the countries, so we use that term saying it's everywhere, but individually we could do better. Kahlil said we can be proactive. Also, I think as a public administrator, I teach all these issues, personal budget, housing issues. I think we need to have a robust operation in the city hall by the city manager and the housing department to hire people very talented to go to know the code, but also to make sure the city, the lawyer of the city need to have that law, because some people are not, they have houses here, they're not living in Cleveland, and they have issues to taking care of that. So I think we have to be very proactive on that and make sure those people pay on time, redo their houses, and also the nuisance, the people with the Section 8 coming and going out, we need to regulate all those issues. We can do better than that.
Okay, thanks. Mary?
Yes. I would like to say that I have talked to realtors who tell me that Cleveland Heights is hot. So yes, we have lost population, but they wanted more product to sell. We have a certain sweet spot, which is mostly between 100,000 and 200,000, I believe. The larger homes take longer to sell, but they do sell. What's happened is some of the low-income areas is very sad, and we definitely need to deal with that. And I agree with you that we're still pretty much reactive in how we've been operating from the foreclosure crisis, and we need to move on. There's a huge demand for new housing in Cleveland Heights. It sells at a very nice price, what there is of it. I also would like to see a better collaboration with our municipal court, which has to deal with a lot of the housing issues, and that's something that we will be dealing with in a few years. There's a trend, there's various trends going on. There's one trend which is people moving in from Geauga County into be closer to the to the art museum and the symphony and all that, and we're getting people that are coming from Geauga County and fixing up houses and living there. There's a huge amount of investment going on in the wealthier parts of town, frankly. I'm just amazed. And we just need to get it spreading all out, and we're taking advantage of University Circle growth and build from what we build on our positives.
Okay, thanks. Julie?
Well, I think I live in a different part of the city, unfortunately. There are 4 houses that have been, 2 have been torn down, and 2 more are going to be torn down on my street just in the past few years. And Cleveland Heights is America's first suburb. It's the first time that people took their homes, moved them away from the industry, and it's a planned city. They don't make cities like this anymore. It's completely built out, and it's not a mistake that pretty much most homes you can walk to a business district and a park. That's done on purpose. Mm-hmm. And so it makes Cleveland Heights extremely valuable. I love living there. I don't want to leave. And it also makes home purchasing there really attractive if we have homes for purchasing. But again, we're getting behind on it. These homes are foreclosing and they're being torn down. If we could get developers to build beautiful new homes on those vacant lots, all different types for all the different parts of the city, I think it would be a great way to bring people in, increase our tax base, increase our property values, and it could be a really great thing for Cleveland Heights. So, I think I might live in one of those areas that's, not doing as well.
Okay, thanks. T, go ahead.
Sure. So I think that right now, the city is poised to be successful around this issue. The best thing that the city can do, however, is to get out of its own way. By that I mean, I think that there are a lot of barriers that exist with building codes and ordinances and zoning that make it difficult for contractors, for developers who want to come in and actually do work on houses and make them not just flippable but nice and livable for long term. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. There's also opportunity for us to look at, as other people have said, currently there is no city-driven rental agreement, lease agreement out there. I think if the city were to standardize something like that, that would help with those issues that do arise. Additionally, with a lot of these foreclosures that are out there, from a zoning perspective, see if there are a lot of big houses in Cleveland Heights, and they don't necessarily have to be. We can maybe find a way to turn them into duplexes, make them more appealing to senior citizens who want to move out of their 6-bedroom house into something smaller, something that would be better suited for just the couple lifestyle as opposed to the large family lifestyle. So I think that while your question was did the city respond adequately? And I think that the city was reactive, but now we have an opportunity to do great things.
Okay, thank you. We're going to give a minute for follow-up on that question. Keba, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think she answered a little bit, but my concern is if all these tax fails, that levy fails, what the city council is planning to do. You're going to plan next year to put back or to do something and to hire economic development. That's my issue. Yeah. For 2 years, we don't have nothing. The city is just left out, no economic development director. And even we have the economic development director, the role was not clearly defined. So You too. What do you think of that? You are in the council.
Well, I'll give Mary a chance to respond
Okay.
to that.
Well, the city has produced, well, there is available a description of what is going to happen. You know, it's not, and this is widely available, by the way, but there's no good choice here. I mean, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but also the consequences of having to cut back on the police force, the housing, and so on, is very difficult. Housing is really key to our community, and foreclosures are down dramatically. They're less than half what they used to be. I don't know the exact number. There's a trend, on the other hand, for rentals instead of buying homes, and it's much better to have homeowners, as far as I'm concerned, because they are more apt to invest in the community and take care of their home and so on. So there's a lot going on, and we just, there's always opportunities and challenges, and we got to deal with the challenges and take advantage of the opportunities, and new housing is one opportunity for sure.
Carol?
I was going to follow up on Mary's comment about the Cleveland Heights being hot and real estate agents wanting to work with us in terms of bringing in potential new buyers. In my own neighborhood, the Noble Neighbors, in April, we had essentially a real estate fair. And we worked collaboratively with a number of realtors and brought in people on a particular Sunday, and every house that was for sale in the neighborhood was viewed that day, essentially, by combining our efforts and working together as a community with individual groupings such as real estate agents. And when I think about the solutions for the future, I think it has to involve the organizing effort of the community in looking at what kinds of things the community can do to bring in viable businesses, what's going to be supported, and I think our real estate fair was one example of that.
Okay, does anybody else want to follow up on that question?
Well, you know what, yeah, I'd like to use my follow-up sort of as an invitation for viewers or perhaps the county prosecutor's office to reach out. Had a quick idea that I wanted to give to the public, perhaps for some commentary. We have only so much capacity to deal with tax foreclosure, but either in the treasurer's office or in the county prosecutor's office. And a thought that I had was to create an MOU with city prosecutors or law departments.
Memorandum of Understanding, is that?
That's correct,
Okay.
yes. Memorandum of Understanding to almost deputize law directors or city prosecutors to, in specific cases, when it's strategically important, to allow those individuals to participate in the tax foreclosure process sort of on behalf of the Office of the Prosecutor, to increase the capacity for tax foreclosure, because that's something that we have to deal with in terms of capacity. So I just wanted to use my follow-up to throw that out there and see if I get a response on that.
Okay. Very good. You okay on that question? We got to move on because we're running out of time. So we got time for one last question here, and it's too bad, but just one more question. For years, City Council and administration officials have used taxpayer money to buy themselves dinner before council meetings. Back in 2013, Finance Director Tom Raguse told us the city budgeted $12,000 for council meals that year. Now, it's a relatively small amount, but given the city's financial situation and the fact that council is asking residents to increase taxes, do you believe this practice should continue? And we'll start with Kahlil.
Well, I can say very definitively that this budget season I will be advocating for the removal of that from the budget.
Okay. Keba?
No, that should not be a tradition. They have money. They should buy their own sandwich before coming in a meeting. I think people are going to be outrageous when they know what's going on. It's not a big deal, but they feel like it's more to it because it's not very public things. People think it's not only they do it that, they might do something else. So I think you need to end this practice. And when I'm elected, I will fight for that.
Okay. Mary?
I understood that originally when the meals were brought in, the council used to pay for it at the end of the year, and at some point that went by the wayside. In any case, I bring my own meal because I prefer a low-fat, whole-grain vegan diet, and it's very hard people have trouble figuring out what that is. So I bring my own, and I'm happy to continue to do that because I just have odd choices. I can't say I stick to that 100%, but that's my goal. I just wanted to add that I really applaud what Noble Neighbors have done. You know, it's not just all government that solves our problems. One of the strengths in Cleveland Heights is that we've had citizens that have tackled various problems and done wonderful things. Everything from the Open Doors Academy to the Home Repair Resource Center, these were all started as community initiatives by individuals, and I just am so admiring of what Noble Neighbors is doing to deal with, bring focus to their issues and find solutions. And I could cite a whole list of you know, the Reaching Heights. It's just a real community strength that this community doesn't, people don't give up and move away just because things aren't perfect. They try to find a positive solution and they go after it. And we need as much of that as we can get.
Okay, thank you. Julie, council meals.
Yeah, I think it should be done away with because it's more a gesture. It's kind of like the idea that, you know, we're going to spend all this money on this extravagant meal and ask you to pay more out of your grocery money for taxes. It's not the $12,000. The per meal cost is high, but it's more of a gesture of saying, city council saying, you know what, we get it. We're not going to spend that money on this. We get it. We're going to cut expenditures. We're going to spend less money because it's your money, and we get it. And we're not going to take more of your grocery money for things like this. And somebody said, it's like I said, it's a gesture. It kind of implies, oh, well, if you'll spend money on that, we'll spend money on something else. So it's just one of those things that I think it's just a bad practice. People are not happy with it, and I think it would be a wonderful gesture for the council to make to stop doing that. And you look great, by the way.
Okay, thanks, and we'll move on to T.
I generally agree with what Julie said. I mean, ultimately, if we were proposing a tax decrease on the ballot, and you know the city could sustain that and still have dinners, then it's one thing. But it's one of those kind of like a slap in the face of, hey, we want more money from the taxpayers, and we're also going to use some of that to feed ourselves. If it's not going to affect productivity to take those meals away, then I don't see why not. So I generally agreeing that those should be taken out of the budget.
Okay, thanks. Carol?
I think it would be a very goodwill gesture on the part of council to get rid of that perk as it's seen by other people and use the money to do what we need to do to bring in an economic development director who is committed and understands that an economic development director in this city needs to work with the people in the neighborhoods, that it can't be a top-down approach. It needs to be from the bottom up. And I agree with Mary that we cannot expect government to do everything for us. We have to do some of that ourselves, which is why I organized my street block watch and why we all need to take responsibility for doing more for ourselves.
Okay. Keba, go ahead.
Yes, that's good, but sometimes the government is needed. But the Noble area, I know, I go there all the time. They can organize, but if the city council have an impulse for them to bring some small businesses there to look those areas like part of the Cleveland Heights, it will be better. The citizens are good, but the government needs some cash down there too.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say about council meals?
No, I don't eat salt, so I don't not concerned about the council meal.
Okay, well now we're going to move on to our next section of the debate. We're going to be opening it up for candidates to ask questions of each other. So I don't know if you're ready for that or not, but we're going to start with Julie, and we're going to give you an opportunity to ask any of the candidates what you would like to ask them.
I don't have anything. I mean, I pass. Can I pass?
Sure you can.
I pass for 90 seconds.
Yeah.
We can move on to T.
Just give me a second.
You get 90 seconds.
Sorry. Questions for other people. So I'm actually most interested in talking to Kahlil specifically because you said that you are Six Sigma trained, you have lean background, and I'm interested in what you've already seen, what kind of opportunities you've already seen within the city that we can cut or tighten.
Well, at this point, it's been a struggle. As you know, we just got word that we got a grant for a process improvement study, and this would be specific. I believe we're getting 20 people trained in lean. So it's Lean Ohio is the program, Lean for the Public Sector. That's the program that I went through. It was a Lean Ohio boot camp. And this is similar, except it's specific to a particular portion of its public works. So we're embarking on that journey. What I'd like to see us do, frankly, is take the next step, because we had to apply for this competitive grant. I believe it's $39,000 for this competitive grant. We could add another $24,000 from the state to train 12 more people in Lean Six Sigma for the public sector, so that we're not just focusing on this particular project, but we're infusing the entire culture at City Hall with Lean Six Sigma methods. And obviously, I'm not going to come up with the process improvements because I don't do the processes, but I am really looking forward to doing this and hearing what our employees say need to be improved.
Okay. Thanks.
Can I add something to that?
I guess you can, sure. Why not?
Okay. It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good, but as a professor of public administration, I think some of the small things we can do is to stop looking at this consultant who cost more money for the city. We'll have a professional in the city. They're very good. I talked to some of the workers. They're really good. They can do things cheaper for us than the big consultant for the, we know the truck issues, the park of the car. You don't need to call somebody who you gotta pay $20,000 to tell us the truck need to be changed. I mean, you gotta look around and the things. I think the city should be smarter than that. Mm-hmm. And I believe we have great people working that our staff. If we talk to them, they're gonna do it. So avoid the big consultant hiring, I think.
Anyone else like to address that topic? Nope. Okay. Well, Carol, would you have any questions for the candidates?
Well, I was fascinated by T's suggestion, as I understood it, that when you were elected, that you were going to come in and actually look at the jobs. Did I understand that right?
Absolutely. From my perspective, how do I put this? I think that sitting here as a citizen, I couldn't tell you right now what are all the city services? Where are our taxpayer money going? Yeah, we know that there are police officers and firefighters, and garbage men, but I'm sure that there are other people. In fact, I know there are other people that do important jobs that affect me. So I think it's important for me to be able to inform myself and inform the community of what is going on, what is the city, where are our taxes going? And I would not feel comfortable sitting on a council making decisions that are not only impacting the city, but also the workers of that city without knowing who these people are and what they do. Going and meeting everyone individually might not be realistic, but taking a good cross-section and shadowing every single one of those services, blogging about it and just letting everybody know this is what's happening, I think that's important. And going beyond that, as Kahlil was saying, that really engaging frontline staff is where you're going to find your efficiencies, showing them that we're here, we want to listen to you, we want to know what ails you, we want to know, what ideas you have to make what we're doing better. That's the best way to engage employees, to engage the community all around. Just have complete transparency with everything, and give that opportunity to let everyone know what's going on for the benefit of the future.
I guess. Is it my turn yet?
You want to follow up on
Well,
that?
I guess I would like to say that I have some problems with that from a conceptual standpoint, not from a philosophical standpoint of engaging people. But I believe the job of the council is to make policy. We hire a staff who's managed by a city manager. I think the job of the council is to come up with what are the performance measures for the city manager that we want to see to demonstrate that philosophy. I think there are some ways that we could be more transparent. For example, I know that the police have a meet your police kind of thing that happens on a regular basis. So maybe we should encourage more kinds of departments to do that kind of thing. But I disagree with city council members going and watching people's work.
Okay, Mary, you have one.
Actually, you addressed the question that I was going to ask of all of the people here. When I first went on city council, you're on the outside and you think of all the wonderful improvements that can be made, and then you get on council and you discover they've already been thought of, and there are reasons why things are the way they are. So my question really for everyone is, how do you see the role of council? Because you've already addressed that. But we don't do anything. We set, the people that are hired by the city do all the work under the direction of the city manager, but we provide guidance.
Okay, Keba, you want to address that?
Yes, Terry raised a question to people who are outside of, that's why they think, but in the public administration theory, it's called organizational theory. This is very important. The people who's working there have culture. The city council has something, but city council is more a political branch, and the administrator is a technical branch of the administration. So they work together, but because of the theoretical issues, you cannot force the administrator to do things. We have collaborations. But his question is, does a lot of people believe in the city? They don't know what's going on, or if they talking together, or if they directing them to do things. But that's another level of political, because our charter would say city council is a political branch. They have nothing to do with the city management, but they have influence on the city management because they are under them.
Okay, Julie, you want to add?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I understand, that government does not work at the same pace as business, and I'm a business person. And I understand, the concept of, having all your dreams crushed when you make it on city council. But I don't think that's a reason to give up and say, let's not try to make the changes. I think we have to try to fight to make changes. And that's why 6 people who are so incredibly well-spoken and who do such a good job of debating, are working so hard for this, because I think we all really see that we really want to make some changes, because the city is not doing well. I mean, it's asking for more money, it's not doing well, so there needs to be some changes, and we really want to try to make those changes happen. And I know there's a process to it, but we'd still like to change.
Kahlil, did you want to say anything about that?
I would like to chime in. I feel like I have a particular perspective because in my day job, I work as staff for a legislative body, and we interact with the administration on a wide variety of issues, and that has influenced my perspective on what a legislative body is supposed to do and what the role is supposed to be. I think when the county government the new county government came into effect, people assumed that this would be sort of a rollover rubber stamp, and it has not proven to be that way. In fact, they are very involved. They make wide-ranging policy decisions that affect how the county is managed. And I feel that not only that, but they influence the vision for the county very dramatically. I think that city council should behave in the same way. I think that we should collectively create a vision for the city, collectively create the guidelines by which the city manager implements that vision. And currently Tanisha Briley is the person that we've hired to implement the vision, but we have to create that vision and provide those guidelines, those very strict guidelines for how it's implemented.
Okay, T, I'm going to give you the last word on this one.
Please. So to answer your question, Mary, I think that the best way to put this is that city council, yes, is there to make policy. I don't disagree. But I think it's also our job to ask the hard questions, to establish timelines, to hold Tanisha or the city manager or people who do the operations accountable.
Yes.
Create a communications plan and make sure that the residents who are expecting us to do a job by representing them know what's going on. And unfortunately, I have to disagree that I can't make policy, I can't make decisions, I can't develop a vision if I don't know what all the services are and what everyone does. And if I were to sit in council up on my high chair with an absence of information, I would just kind of make things up in my head and say, well, I assume that garbage men pick up a lot of garbage, but I don't actually know. And we should make policy based on that. I think that that's a completely unreasonable expectation.
Okay, we're going to move on. I'm going to ask Kahlil, would you have any questions for any of the candidates?
Well, goodness, after that last sort of larger, what's our role?
How do you follow that, right?
How do I follow that? I do have a sort of a smaller question, an issue that's been bugging me since I've been on council. I'm wondering how the other members of this particular forum would feel about moving our committee of the whole meetings into our council chambers so that these committee of the whole discussions can be filmed and archived publicly.
That's a good question, because oftentimes I go to the committee of the whole meeting and it's in a separate room and the door is closed for whatever reason.
That's my question.
So we'll go around here. Carol, you can go first.
I think it sounds like a great idea in terms of helping us open up and be more transparent. And I think that if people had more exposure perhaps to committee of the whole discussions, it would provide the background for how those decisions are made. And it might be the way also to get to one of what I think is T's suggestions in terms of how do individual council members get to be more knowledgeable about the roles. And so maybe there could be some presentation at those committee of the whole meetings about this is what this department does.
Keba?
Yes, I think everything is public is good to inform the citizens, but I don't know what is the law the city use that because they have law for the city to hide themselves behind closed door?
Well, maybe they're just trying to create an atmosphere where they can relax and just talk about, I don't know.
But this is the issue for the modern public administration. The citizens believe anytime they go closed door, something is not clear there. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what's going on. So I'm for what he suggested, if that can be possible, to open at least 2 or 3 meetings to people so we know what's going on. But that's not solving what's going on behind. I think they will see each other again.
Mary, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is that the televised meetings are extremely scripted, and they often don't provide much in the way of context, so that you don't really have a clear idea of why this piece of legislation is being passed, why it's needed. I think it's a poor communications form in that regard. So it would be good for people to have more exposure to the committee of the whole, where the topics are actually discussed and explained. If anybody wants to watch it, it's, I mean, one reason it gets delegated to us, before things, people are really passionate and interested now, but I don't think it's always been like that. The executive sessions are really set by law, and we're considering things in that, like legal issues or personnel, and a lot of them we just can't.
Right,
we cannot talk about in an open forum, and they aren't. It's not everything. It's just very specific things.
Julie?
Well, people are really passionate and interested because we keep raising taxes. But I have had several people ask me about this to have those televised, and conveniently there won't be a meal anymore, so that it'll be easier. So it'll be easier to have those. They wouldn't need to have them in a separate room with the meal, and so we can. So it'd be easier to have it televised. But I understand the legal and personnel issues can't be publicized, but everything else should definitely be sunshine.
I don't want to waste time, so I'll just say yes, absolutely. The more transparency, the better. There's no reason for there to be any secrets.
I just got one follow-up question to that. The City Council has a law, or the city law, I guess, that City Council can meet in executive session to discuss, quote-unquote, general plans for the future or general issues before the city. Mm-hmm. They can do this apparently 4 times a year, and it kind of contradicts state sunshine law. What do you think about that law and whether or not it should continue? And we'll go around this way this time. We'll start with T.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't understand the purpose of what those 4 sessions are being used for. If they're being used for discussing legal issues and personnel issues, things that need to be discussed behind closed doors, then fine. If it's other things that are being discussed that should be public and open to everyone, then I think that they're unnecessary. The sunshine laws exist to help drive an environment of transparency, and I would just say that whatever we can do to remain in compliance, we should.
Julie?
I understand the personnel issues, like 2 people are fighting, and that's private. It can't be publicized. But the other things, I definitely think they should be publicized because people are getting more actively interested and involved, and so many people are running for city council because we're concerned about the direction of the city. We're concerned about how our money is being spent. Taxes keep going up, and that is what is making people so exercised and interested. And we need to have everything out there in the open. And so I think it's important to publicize, to have those meetings open, but also that's why something like Open Checkbook would be so helpful. Like, we have a suite of OpenGov products, but they're very hard to navigate and you can't find specific things. So like, even for example, the 2.8 salary increase, it's all in all these program expenses. Like, you wouldn't know it unless you looked at the notes. So if we had Open Checkbook, we could see stuff like that.
Okay, Mary, I think the last session you had like that, you had a public relations firm in there, so I don't know why you would want to talk in private about that, but what do you think about that law?
That was the strategic operations review where they were making recommendations that would affect the employees of the city that might have, those are things that have to be negotiated with a lot of the employees because they're union employees.
But doesn't that come under the regular sunshine law exemptions that are in the state code? Why would you need a city law saying that's so broad? It gives you such a broad...
I'm just trying to think what we had met about that fell within that category. Let me just be clear. The committee of the whole meetings are actually open to the public. Mm-hmm. They're not televised, but there have been increasing numbers of people sitting around the room listening in on that and paying attention to what's going on. So it's not that they're closed, it's just that we don't do it in a big room where lots of people...
Well, yeah, I know those committee meetings are open, but we're talking about the executive sessions that you can meet 4 times a year to talk about general things.
I didn't know we were meeting 4 times a year.
Well, you have the opportunity to do that.
The future, so we are engaged in a master planning process at present, and that needs to be as open as possible, I think, because that's supposed to come up with a vision for the city, amongst other things. Obviously, it's supposed to be broader than just the city council members having what our vision is. It's not just what we think, it's the whole community. So there's going to be at least 3 public meetings to get public input, and there was a survey that was done last year. So a lot is going to go into that will contribute to a vision and to what we want to do with the community. So we are engaged in a process right now to create that. And
again, though, that doesn't address the question. But Keba, you want to take it?
I think if it is not in compliance with the Sunshine Law of Ohio, it's illegal. I don't know if that's the case, but 4 times they meeting, they should open to the public. And why, if it's not a private issue, why you just guys don't come out and... The issue here, I'm raising the question is like, maybe it's not only personal down there. That's what the population believes. Something else is behind that. And it's against the Sunshine Law. I think the city needs to look into that. If all these candidates, including myself, we will look to it. I think the city is not in compliance with Sunshine Law regarding this issue.
Okay, thanks. Carol?
I believe that the city should be in compliance with the Sunshine Law. I do think, however, we also need to think about how the city council members themselves do have some opportunity to work with each other, it seems to me, in terms of team building. And I think team building in a public forum, might be a little more difficult for people to do, particularly with new members coming. I'm just throwing that out, that almost every group there is that has responsibility overall for some management of something has some opportunity to get to know each other.
Kahlil?
All right. So as a home rule community, Cleveland Heights has the ability, through that ordinance, to meet 4 times in retreat, as they call it, in order to discuss things of a general nature and that sort of thing, the future of the city or some such. I have no use for that section of the code. I would heartily support its repeal. I think that to address the concern about team building, which I think is also important in building relationships and collaborating and finding compromise, relies on those sorts of relationships. But that's not the city's business. Team building, is not a public meeting. So I don't think that would necessarily be affected by the repeal. So I would definitely support the repeal of that section. In fact, if I can find the time, then I'll probably have to draft it myself in order to introduce that to my colleagues.
Okay, are we done? Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. And I ask you out there to please check back to cleveland.com to read stories about the debate issues we talked about tonight and about the candidates in the upcoming election. Early voting starts October 6th. Thank you again, candidates. You did a great job. Thanks for joining us.